All right, that brings us to the key event of the day, which is the reading of the Bill of Rights. So, a lot of people don't understand something called a source or a primary source document. So a primary source document is the document itself. So a lot of times you might get information about the Bill of Rights through a school book or through some sort of an education program, and they can kind of direct you a little bit on that by kind of saying what it is. The first time I ever participated in Bill of Rights Day, we were homeschoolers, and I went to the library to get a book on the Bill of Rights to teach my kids. And when I started reading what was in that book, I immediately closed it and thought maybe we should just read to them what the Bill of Rights says. And that is the key to this event, is that you want to know what the primary source documents say. We've had a previous speaker multiple times come in, and multiple speakers as well, and many of them point out that this is an amendment to an existing constitution. So this isn't a document unto itself, although we refer to it like it is. It's predicated on, first and foremost, the Declaration of Independence. And I took a little class through something called the Institute of the Constitution that was taught by a previous keynote speaker for this event, Thomas Weddle, and also taught by David Christmas a number of years to homeschoolers. And one of the key things that you learn in that class is that at the Declaration of Independence, it says, there is a God, our rights come from him, and the purpose of government is to protect those rights. You can take that whole 12-week course. If you come out understanding those three things from that primary source document, you understand a lot. So my encouragement is read primary source documents. The Bill of Rights didn't come in all of a sudden in 1789. You can go all the way back to the Magna Carta. Sorry, I'm a Bostonian, so that AR word is hard for me to say. Magna Carta. And that's the first time we see written in European history specific rights enumerated. Flash forward hundreds and hundreds of years before we get to our Bill of Rights, but that has expanded out. So when you're looking at these things, primary source documentation, if you haven't read the Magna Carta, good thing to read. Our three primary documents here, Declaration of Independence, Constitution, Bill of Rights. But there are others. There's the Northwest Ordinance. That's an important thing to read. Before we had our Constitution and the Bill of Rights, there was the Virginia Declaration of Rights. Read the rights listed in the original 13 colonies. The arguments before the Supreme Court about Second Amendment have a big impact. When you read those other 13 rights protected for the Second Amendment, it gives much more understanding to it than if you just read the Second Amendment itself. And also when somebody tries to twist it to say this is a government granted right, rather than the government recognizes this right that has always existed, it makes a big difference. The other thing that I'd like to say is that it's very important that this has been written down. These rights have always existed. They've always been understood to exist through European history, which is where our history comes from. But not every place wrote them. We still have a Second Amendment, and it's been upheld time and again by the Supreme Court. You cannot carry a weapon in England. This is our heritage. It's gone. That right is gone. You can't even carry a knife. That right is gone. There are people being jailed for posting things on social media in England. And I use England because that's our history. That's where this came from. But they didn't write it down. Same thing in Australia. Most of English colonial places that hadn't recognized this right no longer recognize it. The government has taken it away. The very first Bill of Rights Day, they had Boy Scouts read the Bill of Rights. And then they had somebody dressed as Uncle Sam come and take them away. Okay? So that's a powerful imagery. But that's the battle that goes on all the time. These rights don't come from the government. These rights come from God. There is a God, our rights come from him, and the purpose of government is to protect those rights. The Bill of Rights does that. That's my editorial. Now I'll read the preamble. So before they brought these rights in, they presented it as a resolution to the Congress. Okay? Preamble to the Bill of Rights. Congress of the United States, begun and held at the City of New York on Wednesday, the 4th of March, 1789. The conventions of the number of states having, at the time of their adopting the Constitution, expressed a desire, in order to prevent misconstruction or abuse of its powers, that further declaratory and restrictive clauses should be added, and as extending the ground of public confidence in the government will best ensure the beneficent ends of its institution. Resolved by the State and House of Representatives of the United States of America in Congress assembled, 2/3 of both houses concurring, that the following articles be proposed to the legislators of the several states as amendments to the Constitution of the United States. All or any of which articles, when ratified by 3/4 of said legislatures, to be valid to all intents and purposes as part of the said Constitution. And then it goes into the articles. Articles in addition to the amendment of the Constitution of the United States of America, proposed by Congress and ratified by the legislatures of the several states, pursuant to the 5th article of the original Constitution. They proposed 12. 10 got passed. 2 of them were procedural. And that wasn't really what the states had wanted at that time. What they wanted was a recognition of the rights that restricted the government. So that's what they got. They passed those 10. So it's key 10, and we're going to hear them now. So I'll ask the students to line up in order of their amendments. Another thought, I went and got this from the Archives of the United States, National Archives. You'll notice that that's printed in type font. They nicely translated it into type font. You cannot read a primary source document if you cannot read handwritten things, cursive, handwritten, calligraphy, all of those things. It's a skill worth knowing if you're going to know history. Have at it. Right behind the podium, please. Thank you.
Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion, or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech, or of the press, or the right of the people peaceably to assemble, and to petition the government for redress of grievances.
A well-regulated militia, being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed.
No soldier shall, in time of peace, be quartered in any house without the consent of the owner, nor in time of war, but in a manner to be prescribed by law.
The right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrant shall issue but upon probable cause supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized.
No person shall be held to answer for a capital or otherwise infamous crime unless on a presentment or indictment of a grand jury, except in cases arising in the land or naval forces or in the militia when in actual service in the time of war or public danger. Nor shall any person be subject for the same offense to be twice put in jeopardy of life or limb, nor shall be compelled by in any criminal case to be a witness against himself, nor be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor shall private property be taken for public use without just compensation.
In all criminal prosecutions, the accused shall enjoy the right to a speedy and public trial by impartial jury of the state and district wherein the crime shall have been committed, which district shall have been previously previously ascertained by law, and to be informed of the nature and cause of the accusation, to be confronted with the witnesses against him, to have compulsory process for obtaining witnesses in his favor, and to have the assistance of counsel for his defense.
In suits at common law where the value in controversy shall exceed $20, the right of trial by jury shall be preserved, and no fact tried by a jury shall be otherwise re-examined in any court of the United States than according to the rules of the Commonwealth.
Excessive bail cannot be required, nor excessive fine, nor cruel and useless punishment of
The enumeration in the Constitution of certain rights shall not be construed to deny or disparage others retained by the people.
The power is not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states, are reserved to the states, respectively, or to the people.
So there they are, primary source documentation for you to know. I want to say I appreciate the 10 children who came up to do this. I work as an occupational therapist, and I try to recruit staff members to present to their friends who they talk to at lunch all the time. And when you ask them to stand in front of a group, they are out. So one of the most scary things for most people in the world to do is to stand up in front of a group and read something. And some of the language in this is a little bit antiquated, so it's not necessarily easy language to deal with. And every one of you nailed it. You knocked it out of the park. You did a great job. And the fact that you are brave enough, the land of the free, home of the brave, to come up here and do it, awesomely done.
Well, you guys did a great job on those presentations. It's a little intimidating for me to come up behind a group like that here.